I didn't love Volume 6 of High School DxD, and I really hate to say this because I was looking forward to this volume a lot. The last volume was really good, and the Juggernaut drive scene is in this volume, so I was expecting a lot from it. But when I finished it, I just felt empty. I didn't hate this volume at all. There were still moments that I enjoyed, and it was still okay, but there's still a lot to talk about. So this volume covers the Diodora arc, and that's it. It's all about Diodora, Asya, and Issei. This volume is also pretty short, especially compared to the last one. The last volume was 100 pages longer. I do want to say this is my favorite volume cover. I just wanted to add that in there. But yeah, this volume starts with just a single text saying, "Can I stay with Issei forever?" They do this in every volume, but it almost has an ominous feel to it, especially since we know Asya is gonna die in this volume. Then we started with Issei having a nightmare about Asya getting married, and for some reason Issei has this weird image of Diodora in his head. He sees him as this pretty boy rich guy, and he almost sees Diodora as better than himself, and I think this is a good little detail. I also think this is the first sign of Rainier's trauma that we see. Issei almost thinks he isn't enough for Asya and is scared of her leaving him because of that. Just a good scene. Great start. The characters are back in school now, and it's revealed that Irina is a new student in the class. The break between seeing Irina is a lot longer in the light novel, so it makes the reveal of her being there an actual surprise. In the anime, she shows up, but it's like, we just saw you last episode, so this doesn't really mean anything. So they did it good in the light novel. Irina has a long talk with the ORC, and we get a lot of info about the angels. She says she's Lord Michael's messenger, so we finally get an angel that we can like. We also learn that the angels are using the same evil peace system that the devils are using, except they're using cards instead of chess. And I like this idea that all the different factions are using different games and stuff. It's just interesting. So it's revealed that Irina is Lord Michael's ace, maybe? I'm pretty sure that's what happened, but it's just kind of hard for me to believe. Is she really the strongest person Michael could find to be his ace? But they hint at a rating game between all the factions, and I think that sounds really interesting. They even give them a reason. Angels and devils hate each other, so they want to use the rating game to calm that hatred. They didn't need to give them a reasoning, but they did anyway. Also, during this conversation, Sona just pops out of nowhere, and I thought that was kind of funny because I didn't realize she was here. But later on, Issei's doing some thinking, and he realizes that one of the reasons why he isn't popular with girls is because he doesn't know how to talk to girls. And I don't know why it took him this long to realize this, but it's about time. I think this is also supposed to be another sign of Rainier's trauma, but this one isn't as well done for a few reasons. First, it comes off as more of a joke, so it's hard to take Issei seriously when he says this. And then second, it doesn't even sound like trauma, it just sounds like he doesn't know how to talk to girls. So if that is supposed to be another hint, it's not done that well. But Issei and Asya are doing the three-legged race together, so they gotta train for it. And while training, they run into Saji, and Saji reveals that Issei influenced his abilities. His armor has one of the jewels that Issei has on his armor. And then Dreg says that contact with him fastened Saji's power. And I like this a lot, and I also like where they're going with this. They need to do everything they can to not drop the ball with Saji. Keep up that pace. So it's revealed to our characters that they're doing a rating game tournament between all the top devil households. Rias is facing Diodora, and Asya is obviously really anxious about this. We get a good scene between Issei and Asya, where Asya says she wouldn't change anything about her life if she could, but I really think Diodora showing up really fastened this idea of the girls leaving him in Issei's head. But obviously this is good, like, foreshadowing. So Irina joins the ORC, and then that storage room scene happens. You should know what I'm talking about. And the only reason I'm pointing this scene out is because this is like the first moment Issei starts to see Asya as more of a lover than as a little sister. But once that's over, they start studying film from previous rating games. Saurorg fought Zephyrdor, and Diodora fought Seek-Vira. They watched the Saurorg fight, and Saurorg completely destroyed Zephyrdor. We also get a nice ranking of power between the household leaders, or future leaders. Saurorg's at 1, Agaris at 2, Rias at 3, Diodora at 4, Sona at 5, and Zephyrdor at 6. I don't know, I just like that they added that. We then learn about Saurorg's past and his power, and then it's revealed that they gotta fight Saurorg after they beat Diodora. And they were so scared about that. Saurorg literally broke Zephyrdor. The aura built around Saurorg was fantastic. This whole moment makes Saurorg seem like an unstoppable force, and it builds that excitement for the eventual battle between them. Very well done, and one of the best things they did in this volume. So it's revealed that Diodora beat Agaris, but before they find out how, Diodora teleports into their room and tries to trade for Asuya, but obviously Rias declines this. I think I like this scene more in the anime, mainly because Issei didn't call Diodora Dildo Ra Astamouth, so that was a little disappointing. But yeah, Diodora leaves, and we're on to the next scene. Issei is riding his bike home when he runs into Biko and Volley. They have a nice little chat, and then Volley warns them about Diodora. This is actually another scene that the anime adapted very well. The only real difference is Koneko and Kuroka aren't there in the light novel. So we get a flashback of the group watching the film between Diodora and Agaris, and Diodora completely overwhelms her. But my first thoughts on reading this part was Diodora has to be the dumbest villain in the series. He really thought he can just go from being decently strong to having overwhelming power, and people would just not get suspicious of that. And the best part is, no one believed he did that fairly. Now this whole scene with Biko and Volley confused me at first. When I first read it, I couldn't tell that it was a flashback of them watching that film. I thought Volley warned them and then went to Issei's house and then they started watching the film. I was so confused. But while Biko, Volley, and Issei are talking, Milton just comes out of nowhere. And this appearance actually surprised me. This was the most surprising thing about this light novel. I don't even know why, but it was just really funny. Volley's reaction to seeing Milton was actually hilarious. This was by far one of my favorite moments from this volume. Issei has a conversation with Drake, and we get some more relationship building between Issei and Drake. And it's small things like this that the light novel does so good. But Issei goes home and tells Rias about Volley's warning, and for some reason Rias doesn't believe Volley, even though they watch Diodora's power increase randomly. But then Rias and Akeno start fighting over Issei, and then Issei, Zenobia, Koneko, and Asuya just go into a different room and play a game together. We get another scene of Asuya talking about how much she loves her new life, and this is just nasty work by the author at this point, putting these heartwarming scenes of Asuya just to kill her off. But that's not it. We get a whole page from Asuya's perspective, again talking about how much she loves her new life and how much she loves Issei. At this point, it's getting repetitive, and this isn't necessary at all. We already know this stuff. We literally heard her say this in the scene before this. Like, it feels like this was just here to fill in some time or fill in some pages. But Azazel starts talking to Sir Zex about Diodora's powers, but we also get a cute little moment where Azazel talks about how he's the only one out of his friends that doesn't have a lover. I don't know, I just like any scene with Azazel in it. The characters have a press conference meeting about their rating game with Diodora, but before that, Rias and Issei talk about Asuya, and the scene just does a good job of showing Rias' leadership. That's pretty much the best thing they do with Rias, is make her look like a leader and show that she cares about her peerage. So they go to the press conference meeting, and then they run into Cyborg, and of course Cyborg wants to fight Issei. This is another good scene, but yeah, setting up a fight between the main characters and the most hyped up man in the series is a good idea, of course. While they're in the waiting room for the press conference, Issei gets pulled to the side to do a secret mission, and immediately I already knew the mission was the Opie Dragon song, so yeah, he records that and then does the press conference. After the conference, Issei runs into Ravel, and Ravel gives him some cakes, and I really don't get why Ravel likes Issei at this point. The only interaction these two have had was Issei threatening her after he was beating the hell out of her brother, and then the other interaction was when Issei said he would have tea with her, but at that point it had already been established that she had liked him. It just doesn't make sense, and it feels kind of forced. Also, side note, this light novel has a problem with giving us the most useless information and lines. For example, like a page later after this Ravel encounter, we get to know about the character's favorite milk flavors. This information is completely useless, and I don't know why it's in here. Also, the line about Issei describing Ravel's cake flavor, and I said this earlier, but that whole page of Asuya talking about how happy she is and how much she loves Issei, again, not necessary. We already know this stuff. We don't need a page dedicated to it, and we don't need lines dedicated to flavors. But yeah, Issei runs into Zenobia training, and they have a very good conversation. This conversation brings Zenobia into the volume. She actually feels important in this volume, and we finally get a serious scene with her. Zenobia is motivated for this rating game because of how she lost in the last rating game without doing anything, or at least in her eyes she didn't do anything. But Issei of course cheers her up, and then she kisses him. Again, a very well done scene with Zenobia, and really the only characters that seem important in this volume are Issei, Asuya, and Zenobia. Everyone else is just there. The rating game begins, and of course they're attacked by the Chaos Brigade, and Diodora takes Asuya. Although I do think it's generic, I still acknowledge that they do a really good job at making Diodora as unlikable as possible. He always has this smile on his face, and it just makes him that much more unlikable. But yeah, he takes Asuya and then teleports away, leaving the main characters surrounded surrounded by the Chaos Brigade goons, like 1,000 of them too. But luckily Odin comes in and fights those Chaos Brigade goons. But Issei's reaction to Odin looking up Akuno's skirt was so weird in the anime. He just didn't care at all. But in the light novel, he actually pulls her away. This just makes so much more sense. Like, why would Issei be okay with some random old guy sexually harassing a girl he likes? But yeah, Odin fights off the Chaos Brigade people, and the main characters run to Diodora. Azazel calls them, and then he reveals that Diodora got his power from Ophis' snake. And this is also done better here. It's very brushed over in the anime. They brush over the whole entire Diodora's power thing. It's mentioned once in a conversation between Azazel and Sir Zex, just done way better in the light novel. It made it seem like it's actually an important topic. I forgot to mention this, but Odin has a special eye, and that eye makes Issei shake, and Drake shake actually. And this is good character building. Strong characters should always come off as strong, and that's exactly what they're doing here. The team continues on while Odin is fighting the Chaos Brigade, and Azazel explains that they were able to figure out the Chaos Brigade's plan because of Diodora and him using his power in that raiding game. Basically, he ruined their plan, and again, I'm so glad they pointed this out. Dude is actually the dumbest villain in DxD. Azazel also says that he was ready to die if the plan of using the kids to draw out the Chaos Brigade went south, and again, it's just Azazel proving he's the coolest character. He's also the most consistent character. He's been a top 3 character in every single volume he's been in. But they catch up to Diodora, and he proposes the idea of them doing the raiding game still. Rias doesn't have any other option but to agree. So Issei, Koneko, Gasper, and Zenobia are up first, and they're going against all 8 of Diodora's pawns and 2 of his rooks. Before they all fight, Rias gives them a plan on how to beat the opponent. And again, this is just good leadership from Rias. They do a really good job at that with Rias. So Zenobia kicks the fight off by completely blasting away the 2 rooks. And again, Zenobia has done so good in this volume. She genuinely cares about Asuya, and she shows so much emotion. And I'm just glad we finally see her take something seriously. Besides for Issei, I would say she was the best character here. Also, I'm pretty sure Zenobia killed those rooks. But now it's Issei's time to shine. Issei uses his booby lingual to read the pawn's moves. Gasper freezes them, and Koneko takes them out. A quick battle, but quick for the better. I usually don't like tsundere characters, but I do like Koneko, because when she hits Issei, it's completely justified. But anyways, Rias and Akuno are next, and they're up against Diodora's queen and his bishops. Of course, Issei says that if Akuno wins, he'll go on a date with her. And this is another funny scene. You can always count on High School DxD to be funny. It's got peak comedy. Rias and Akuno win, and they move on. But for some reason, we see another flashback with Asuya talking about how happy she is. This is like the 12th time Asuya has said how much she likes Issei and how happy she is. So only Diodora's knights are left, but when they're supposed to be fighting the knights, Fried comes out. And this is just another good scene with Fried. I was surprised that I like this scene more than I like the one in the anime. Fried reading Issei's mind is just funny to me. But he transforms into his little monster thing, and then he explains how Diodora planned everything that happened to Asuya out. And that scene of Fried revealing Diodora's plan is actually pretty good in both the anime and the light novel. It's a good surprise, and again, they do a really good job at making Diodora the most unlikable person ever. Obviously, this makes Issei mad, and he tries to kill Fried, but Kiba stops him, and Kiba was actually pissed, and then uses his anger to kill Fried in one slice. I hate to see Fried die like that, but I can't be mad. The way they did Kiba's anger right here was just so well done. So Fried dying like that makes sense in the context of the story. Issei also hints at Fried's backstory, and then he moves on. They get to Diodora, but then we switch to Azazel's perspective. We see this nice little moment where Tani is teaming up with Azazel. In the last volume, it was pretty clear that Tani didn't like Azazel, so seeing them together is something I really liked. Ophis explains her plans of the dimensional gap and how Great Red is in her way. She then says that Rias won't be able to beat Diodora, but then Azazel lets her know about Issei and how powerful he really is. I love this moment so much. It really seems like Azazel knows Issei more than everyone else. But then Crusory comes in, and so does Sir Zex. And Zex actually gives Crusory a chance, but it just shows how pure of a heart Sir Zex has. He gives Crusory a chance to surrender, even though Crusory has killed so many devils. But obviously Crusory doesn't want to surrender, so Zex completely obliterates him. Again, this scene is done better in the light novel. It makes Sir Zex's power seem more powerful, and it also made it seem like he has more control of his power. We go back into Issei's perspective, and they arrive at the shrine with Diodora, and they see Asuya with one of the Longinuses. I can't remember which one. But Diodora starts mocking Asuya, then Issei goes crazy. You know, he has his little rage moment. So yeah, he beats Diodora, and again, the light novel did this scene better than they did it in the anime. It was just a lot more emotional in the light novel novel seeing Issei go crazy. And on top of that, Zenovia got her own moment too, where she really wanted to kill Diodora. I actually really like Issei not killing Diodora. It just shows that even though he's a devil, he's still a human at heart, and he still doesn't have it in him to kill someone. They then try to free Asya, but can't, and Diodora explains how it's pretty much impossible for her to escape after the Longinus has been activated. This whole plan with the Longinus thing is actually really good. So she's trapped in it, and this thing expands her power and then reverses the effect. So it'll pretty much instant kill anyone that's in the battlefield because her Twilight healing is just so strong. This adds a whole new layer of stakes. Asya even offers Issei to kill her. The tension is at an all-time high, but then it gets cut in half when Issei just uses dress break to free her. I don't hate the idea, it's just a little silly. But then Issei delivers one of the worst lines in this volume. He says maybe I should deactivate my armor once we hide in the basement, but it might be better to stay in this form till last minute. It would be scary if someone attacks us. This is just a bad line because it's way too on the nose. He's talking about staying in his armor in case he gets attacked, and then he gets attacked by Shalba. But yeah, Asya is safe now. For some reason, she feels like she has to pray at every second, but whatever. She does a little prayer, and then she just disappears. We then switch to Kiba's perspective, and I really like these perspective switches. I honestly wouldn't have been able to take this scene seriously if it was in Issei's perspective. I don't know, there's just something about him that makes him so unserious. But I also like the people that they switch perspectives to. So usually they'll switch to Azazel's perspective, but occasionally they'll go with Kiba. Both really good choices and both really interesting characters. So yeah, Asya disappeared, then Shalba shows up and bashes Diodora for ruining their plan and then kills him. He starts monologuing and then he reveals that Asya is dead. And at this point everyone just starts crying, even Kiba. The build up to Juggernaut Drive is done really well. Everyone is just super emotional. Issei gets up and walks towards Shalba, and we hear Drake's voice come out of Issei's mouth. This is a perfect scene, and it perfectly shows how Issei has completely lost it. Or more, it shows that that's not Issei anymore. Issei goes Juggernaut Drive. This part of the Juggernaut Drive scene was done really well. Again, they do a good job at emphasizing the fact that that's not Issei anymore. Showing the characters trembling at the sight of him was a good way to show that. Also, Issei trying to eat Shalba's arm was crazy. Issei does his little blast move and then beats Shalba. While this is all happening, we hear my favorite line in the volume, and it's, even if he lost himself, he still has the sadness of losing Asya within him. I just love this line. It makes everything feel so sad. And of course, it's true. At that point, Issei has no control over his body, but he still feels the pain of losing Asya. And that pain actually feels real when you see that his dragon form is crying. Not just him, but the dragon is crying out. It really is just a really well done scene for about 10 seconds. Because guess who comes in? Volley himself. And guess who Volley has? Asya. Asya is alive, and I really don't know how to feel about this. This whole volume, I've had this question in my head, should they kill Asya off? And the more I think about it, the more I think about how they built this up, the more I think about Issei's Juggernaut Drive scene, the more I realize that Asya should have died right here. The statement that would make is just unexplainable, and it will just make the series so much more unpredictable. It also makes the world just seem that much more real. There are real consequences to real mistakes. Issei made the mistake of not watching Asya, and the consequence was her getting taken and dying. But Asya coming back also makes the Juggernaut Drive seem less important. It seems like it's all for nothing. Issei goes berserk after Asya's death, but not even 5 minutes later, Volley comes in and it's revealed that Asya is alive. If you're gonna bring her back, at least let her death sink in. We barely have time to face the reality of her dying before she's brought back. It just could have been executed so much better, and I really think they would have been better off just killing her right there. It would open up opportunities for characters like Zenovia. Her best friend just died in front of her, and she couldn't do anything about it. At least Issei was able to get some type of revenge on Shalba, but Zenovia, when she tried attacking him, she got blasted away immediately. This really could have set something up with Zenovia's character. But yeah, Asya gets rescued by Volley, and then Volley says that Issei would be calmed down by a song. And then here comes Irina to play that song, the Opie Dragon song. They play it and then Issei calms down. He then pokes Rias's boobs and he's back to normal. This is really bad, but before I get into why it's bad, let's start with something good about it. I like the fact that the song was made by the leaders. Just thinking about Azazel writing those lyrics makes me laugh. Alright, that's it for the good. Now let's get to the bad. The tone of the entire light novel is completely killed at this point. And at this point, I'm just ready for it to be over. The light novel with 300 pages felt shorter than this one with 200 pages. The tone is killed for a few reasons. The first one is Asya being revealed to be alive while he's still going berserk. This adds a very unnecessary feeling of happiness to a scene like the Juggernaut Drive scene. Literally all they had to do was wait to reveal Asya being alive. But then you add something something as goofy as him being calmed down by a song and poking Rias's boobs? Just no. It kills everything it was just trying to build up, and I genuinely have no idea how anyone can defend this. Just from a writing standpoint, this makes no sense. This is the last thing you want to do. The last thing you want to do after building up suspense is to completely cut that suspense with something funny. And honestly, I don't blame the anime for going off script with this specifically, because if I was in their shoes, I would too. This is the only thing that the anime changed that was done better, and it was done way better. This Juggernaut Drive conclusion almost completely ruined the volume for me. Just a crazy build up, and it led to disappointment. I really can't put into words how bad this is, and I really am flabbergasted on how the author thought this was a good idea. You get these chills on the back of your neck with Issei going Juggernaut Drive, but then you hear him talking about boobs and singing about them. But Issei wakes up and both him and Asuya are perfectly fine. Volley and Issei see Great Red, and Volley reveals he wants to fight Great Red. Office, Azazel, and Tanin appear, and Tanin says Great Red didn't even acknowledge his presence when he tried to fight him. And that's again a good way to build Great Red up. Someone as strong as Tanin not even being recognized by him. Volley and Azazel talk, and the hero faction is hinted at. And then Issei and Volley become friends. Arthur said he wants to fight Kiba and Zenobia. They become friends too. But Asuya wakes up. Issei goes to her. You know, maybe they can save this scene with a good moment between Issei and Asuya. Nope, Zenobia jumps in and completely stops Issei and Asuya from having a good scene. But yeah, everyone's ready to go home, but then Issei passes out. But honestly, at this point, this scene feels completely useless, and it has absolutely no impact. Again, the tone is so off in this volume, it's actually ridiculous. Y'all just made the story goofy, and now you're trying to make it serious again? That's not how it works. The tone has already been ruined. Issei passing out was just a okay moment. I didn't have any feelings about it, because the last time I had my feelings up about a scene, it got completely ruined. But yeah, it's revealed that Shalba is alive, which I have no idea how he survived that, but he did. And then we see Soso for the first time. Issei wakes up and talks to Sir Zex, and Zex warns him about using Juggernaut Drive and how it can kill him. They also do some more hinting at Cyborg's rating game. They literally hint at everything but the Loki arc. We have the entire plot of season 4 leaked, but we have nothing about Loki. And Loki is the next volume. But yeah, while talking, Issei realizes he's late for his three-legged race with Asuya. He runs to Asuya, he catches her, they do the three-legged race, they get first place. But when they finish, Issei's weak, so Asuya takes him behind the gymnasium to heal him. They share a kiss, and then Asuya says she loves him. And then the volume ends. A nice ending to a disappointing chapter. Overall, I would say this volume was alright. It started off pretty good, building up a lot of characters and building up for future moments. But man, that Juggernaut Drive scene was so disappointing, and it really brings down this light novel. So for a score, I'll give this volume a 5.5 out of 10. And the last one, I'll give a 9. My favorite characters from this volume were Issei and Zenobia, because they were the only ones that really did anything. And my favorite moment, I don't even know. I guess it's the little game that they had with Diodora right before the Juggernaut Drive scene. This video took so long to make. It doesn't even make sense how long it took me to make this, especially since I had this recorded like 2 months ago. I just never felt like editing it. I'm hoping the next one will come out next week, but you never know anymore. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.